Hey, everybody. We are live. It is Friday afternoon. I'm Virginia Amos. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker in Old Town Alexandria. And today we are bringing you the 21st edition of From Our House to Yours, where we look and talk to the people, the businesses, and the organizations that make Alexandria such a great place to live. And today, I can't think of our neighborhood without Stacy Swartz and the Neighborhood Pharmacy. So welcome, Stacy.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, I was thinking, Stacy just reminded me it's actually been 11 years since they came to Delray. Yeah. And I was reminded that 11 years ago, I was writing a very active blog about the businesses in the area. And Stacy was one of the first people I interviewed and wrote a piece about. And gosh, that has been a long time.
Oh, it has been. I was a lot younger back then.
Weren't we all? Weren't we all? So and by the way, people, Stacy is not on Facebook. And that's okay. She's not.
I don't know how this all works.
For all of you who are out there watching, and I'm going to remind you, I want everybody to share on their Facebook page. So even though Stacy's not there, everybody else will be there. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to Delray, how you even found the location, because you've been in the same spot for all of those 11 years.
Yeah, so Barbara Hayward, my business partner, and I, we decided 12 years ago now, we were going to start a pharmacy, and we wanted to start it close to where I lived. I live right on the edge of Rosemont, and I knew Delray, hung out in Delray, and I thought this would be a perfect place for a community pharmacy. And I know that it was hard for some people to envision it because we're not used to seeing community pharmacies in urban areas. But I knew how small business friendly Delray was, and how they like to support our business. I like to support the businesses before I opened it up. So I never had a doubt that we would be successful there, which
that's nice.
Now, looking back on it now, I think I was crazy, but I never had doubt. And so we were very lucky in the beginning that we got hooked up with Pat Miller and Maria Sowski and Jen Walker. And we're able to find a location, and they helped us through the process. And then our friend Pam DeCandio helped us to get the funding for it. So we were able to we had a lot of help along the way. And and we had help from you guys too. And just we were really very, very lucky in the beginning just to have people come to our store to check us out before they knew anything about us, before they knew whether or not we took insurance, before they knew what kind of pharmacy we were. And then it just kind of built from there. And we started the business with no customers, and now we're crazy busy sometimes.
You are.
Yeah.
At the time you started, how many community pharmacies were there, say, in the United States?
So you'd be surprised. There's about, at the time, about 24,000.
Okay.
Which, if you look at the total number of community pharmacies, there's about 60,000. So you're looking at like roughly a third. But in general, they're kind of hidden in like medical office buildings.
Okay.
So you generally don't see them on the main street like ours is. But I think our numbers have dropped down over the last decade just because of insurance and things like that. But pretty much we still represent about a fourth of the community pharmacies in the country.
Okay, that's interesting. I never would have thought about a pharmacy in a doctor's building being considered a community pharmacy.
Yeah, as long as it's generally the definition is as long as it's owned by a pharmacist,
okay,
or owned not by a large corporation. So there's not more than 4 is what they say, a community pharmacy. So I know lots of people who own many things, but generally it's pharmacist owned or pharmacist directed.
Okay. And had you been in a corporate environment before that as a pharmacist?
I did actually. I grew up when my very first job when I was 16 was working in a community pharmacy, working at CVS, and then I went to pharmacy school and I moved down here and I worked for the National Community Pharmacists Association,
Okay.
which is the trade association for pharmacists like mine. So I got to work for the pharmacy industry for 5 years, and then I got a little tired of working in an office setting. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it myself. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Well, I must admit, when you first opened, I just, my first thought was, well, they're going to be more expensive
Sure, of course.
than, a corporate pharmacy. It was almost like it was a boutique pharmacy. But, that is the thing that I think is so remarkable about you all, and that I always see posted comments of, people want to know where to get prescriptions filled, and everybody's like, oh my God, go to the neighborhood pharmacy. They're not any more expensive. Many times they're less expensive. And that is an incredible addition to the neighborhood.
Well, and I think because most people are on insurance, that 90% of the time your copay is going to be the same, regardless if you come to me or you go to Walgreens, you go to CVS. Your copay is your copay is your copay, is what we always say. There are situations when that's not the case, but what we've always tried to be is very open about it. So if you're going to be financially disadvantaged by coming to us, I'm going to tell you straight up, because I don't want you to have that. And then for folks who don't have insurance, or their insurance makes their prescriptions costs be very high, we have a ton of flexibility with our pricing. So I will get you, I always tell people I need to sleep at night. So I'll get you the best price that I can get for you, which people are always very surprised is a lot less expensive than my chain competitors, because they don't have any real price flexibility.
Right. And they always seem so harried. I mean, it's like they don't seem to be enjoying their work very much sometimes.
Well, and I think they're good people, and I think they try very hard, but they're a volume-based business.
Yeah.
So, they want to get people in the door so that they can buy their greeting cards and their, toothbrushes and stuff like that. And the people that are forced to go there, they have to go there. They don't have any choices. So that's why it gets harried, and it gets a very fast food mentality towards pharmacy. We try very hard not to have that in our store. We try very hard to make pharmacy as easy for you, but then also, take control of some of the problems so that you never really kind of see how hard we're working behind the scenes for you.
Yeah. Well, talking about working with people, you all have been really good with Michael, because he has one of those medications that gets caught in the what is it to call it, the Medicare donut hole?
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard, because Medicare is generous on the front end and they're generous on the back end, but in the middle they're really not generous. So it's we try very hard to think proactively. And what we do for folks who are on Medicare who have options is every fall we'll have like events where people could come in and we'll go through their medications and pick out the best Part D plan for them, so that they are not stuck with a big bill in the middle of the year,
Which is nice.
Yeah.
And you also do, I've known you to look up coupons for prescriptions.
Oh yeah, because why would I take your money when I can take someone else's money? I'll take the manufacturer's money every day of the week. But that's not particularly difficult. It takes us 5 minutes to do. So, and it's not coming out of your pocket. So we try whatever we can do to keep the price down for you.
And because I haven't had the need for it in a while, are you all still doing deliveries?
We are. In fact, they've increased during the pandemic a bit. We have we don't charge for our delivery services. So we have a very narrow range of where we go. We just go 22301, 05, 02, and 22314.
That's a pretty big range.
I mean, it's big enough, but we will do it. And generally it's for, for elderly people who can't get out of their homes. But we also have, new moms and now people who can't leave their house because they're concerned about their health conditions.
Well, speaking of that, I know that they probably did not teach pandemic in pharmacy school.
They did not.
So obviously you all were a critical business.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to stay open. And people were relying on you. I mean, what steps did you, I know that early on you had stocked up on sanitizer and hand wipes and, people were sending other people down to see you, but that quickly ran out and then people were just in their houses.
It was without doubt the most stressful time I've ever had in pharmacy was in the first 3 weeks of March, when the experts in the world came and told everyone to go get 3 to 6 months of their prescriptions, and we were just inundated, rightfully so, with people. And then a lot of people had questions, right? Because everybody didn't know what to do, and it's hard. It was hard for us because we try real hard to have answers for people, and we didn't have any answers, and we couldn't, but we tried to manage the best that we could, and then along the same times trying to manage the health of our community. We went from limiting the amount of people we could have in the store at a time to like 6 people, and then we went to 4, and now we're down to 1. So there was no guidelines out there on how to safely protect your business. So we kind of just made it up as we went along. And we feel like that we've done a pretty decent job because most of the recommendations that they're coming out with, we had already done. And we've been blessed, knock on wood, that no one has ended up sick or no one in our store or anything like that. And I don't even have antibodies, so we haven't had exposure at all. But that I think it's somewhat, we're just lucky. But we had to make those business modifications, and we're continually reassessing it too, of what we're going to do now that it's opened up. Are we going to increase the amount of people that we're going to have in our store? We're thinking a lot about the fall, about how we're going to. Everybody.
It's not unusual for you to have 6, 7, 8 people in the store, along with assorted dogs.
Yes.
Coming for their treats.
Yes. So that's been a bit of an adjustment for us. We're actually doing a lot of curbside too. I know a lot of businesses are doing that, but we'll run it out to you in the front or our back parking lot. And so that's led us to continue to have the same volume, but we don't do as much visiting as we used to do.
Now, but you said something earlier that made me think. You said that somebody was recommending that people have like 3, 6, 9 months worth of prescriptions. You don't even have that kind of volume in the store. I mean, I would imagine on some drugs, you certainly are not sitting there with 9 months.
No. I mean, I have the best customers in the whole wide world. I do. And when I would tell people at that time, I'm like, I really just don't have that amount. I will get that amount for you, but I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or the next day or the next day. I'm so blessed that people were patient with us, especially then. And we were able to make it work. We were able to keep up with our supply. Our whole industry faced the same issues, and our vendors really kind of collapsed for a week or 2 or 3, but they built back up. Like anybody, adjusted to it. And I don't know if we'll see that again. We may if there's a resurgence in the fall where people are looking to get another extended supply. But in general, it's good for people to have extra supply or medication just in case, something happens. So I think it allowed people to be set up well, for delays in the future too.
Interesting. I'd never really thought about keeping extra supplies on hand.
It is just because you never know what life has in store for you. You don't know if you're going to be traveling or if something, let's say, heaven forbid, we did get an exposure and had to shut down for a week or so, it would be good to have an extra just to be on the safe side, Not like we wouldn't have contingencies, but it's always good. Life happens,
Right. Was there anything else that you saw that was unusual in terms of what people were buying or what they were asking about? I would imagine you got tons of questions.
We did. We got tons of questions that we didn't necessarily have the answer for, like, would my medication still be available? We obviously got a lot of requests for cleaning supplies and things to keep you safe and infection free. It used to be that I would read the paper in the morning to find out what people would be asking me for in the afternoon. I remember there was a New York Times study that said that everyone should have a pulse oximeter. And all of a sudden I would get like 10 calls of, do you have a pulse oximeter? So it was a little unusual in that I've never had so many calls for rubbing alcohol in my life, but we've been trying to keep up with the supply as much, but there's just some things that we truly cannot get. We've gotten probably 10 thermometers in 2 months or one case of rubbing alcohol. So it's, some of these things have just taken some time to come back up. I haven't been able to buy Lysol, for example, but it's a weird time. It continues to be a weird time. We've had to, like, some of the things that made our store with like the dog treats and the lollipops on the front counters, we had to get rid of. I mean, we still have them, but we have to have them hidden.
Right.
And we, take care of most of the transaction for folks, and we're behind plexiglass, which is so weird for me. I resisted that for a very long time, but I couldn't resist it anymore, because our whole business mindset is to be there for you and upfront and be, your partner. And so it was a little weird for us to be kind of separated, but we figured it out.
Well, it is. You're the neighborhood pharmacy. So, can't think what I want to say here. Two of our guests in recent weeks, one was Mike Brown, who's chief of the Alexandria Police Department, and then Chelsea Anderson and Bill Blackburn. And Chelsea mentioned that she had been keeping a notebook. She'd been keeping this running narrative of what had happened, from the very beginning, because we were saying, and I think that the same thing will be true of pharmacy school, that when they go to write curriculum in the fall or 2021, there's going to be a course on pandemics.
And even from us, as a business owner, my industry is going to look significantly different when this is over. Where they're talking about coronavirus vaccine, 20% of people get their adult vaccines from community pharmacies. So what's that going to look like for us? How are we going to, I am very concerned about the fall and about when people come to get their flu shots, how we're going to keep everybody safe. But also we're not doing it in our store because our store is too small, but there's a lot of community pharmacies out there that are doing COVID testing. And that is a huge departure from us. We pharmacists in general don't prescribe anything or administer tests on our own. So this is a huge step forward for us professionally. And it'll be very interesting to see where we end up at the end of it in terms of what's standard practice for us. So that notebook idea is a great idea. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So you can contribute to the narrative about what's going on. I'm just going to take 2 seconds and just remind everybody, if you're out there watching us, please share on your Facebook feed, especially since Miss Stacy is not on Facebook, and we want to make sure everybody sees her. It's okay. It's okay. You're allowed not to be on Facebook. What do you see? Are you talking about changes? What do you see going? Oh, there are 2 questions I wanted to ask you. What do you see going forward? We'll get to that in just a minute because I have to think of this. And you were talking about reading the newspaper. There's so much on TV. There's so much in the newspaper. there's so much. I mean, everybody has an opinion on Facebook about what you should and should be and who to listen to. Mm-hmm. As a professional pharmacist and as someone who is part of the whole larger body of healthcare, mm-hmm. Who is it and what organizations do you rely on for really valid information and valid statistics about what is happening?
So the only real place that I go to for my information is the Virginia Department of Health's coronavirus webpage. Okay. That I'm on the Virginia Board of Health. I know the good work that the VDH does, and they have evolved over time in terms of reporting how many cases we have and how many deaths. And now they go down to the micro level of how many cases are in a zip code, how many hospitalizations do they have, how many admissions do you have, and how many deaths do you have, and what settings are there. Because the only way that we're going to be able to trend how we're doing as a community is to really look at it. Cases is somewhat important, but as more testing happens, mm-hmm. cases are going to go up. So you can't like look at that and be like, oh my God, we're so much worse than we were, because we had a lot of people who just didn't know they had it. But if you look at hospital admissions, that's going to tell us a little bit about where we are as a community. And then hospitalizations matter, but they tend to matter less over time because people are in the hospital for a long time. Okay. So that's where I go to. They have a lot of business recommendations and they have some community recommendations. So Alexandria's health department website kind of goes along hand with that. Mm-hmm. Get a lot of their information from that. So that's generally where I get my information. I think I've learned a lot in observation just by having never taken a day off during this time about, how communicable it is and how people have gotten it. I think I'm in a unique position where I know a lot of people who've been, diagnosed with it. I know people who've been hospitalized with it. So you can, learn a lot from them too about, what the symptoms were and how they knew they had it and things like that.
Well, yeah, I think that's interesting from the standpoint. I mean, I personally know, I think one person who he had a very mild case.
Yeah.
But I think that has been the challenging part of this is it has affected so many people so differently. Mm-hmm. And the people had it. And like you said, they didn't know they had it.
I know. I just found out from a colleague of mine that they have mandated that nursing home facilities, that they have mandatory testing, and they went and tested everybody and they found that they had 30 cases in the nursing home. Of the 30 people, 28 of them were asymptomatic. So there is just a ton of asymptomatic cases out there. I truly believe that wearing masks helps us all. Okay. So I think that one of the best steps that you can do to keep yourself safe and also from infecting others is to wear a mask, wherever you, especially if you're going to be indoors. And that,
you mean indoors with other people, like in a
okay. Yeah. And from the very beginning, I took the mindset of just assume that you have it. Okay. In your interactions with others. I know I don't, but let me just assume that I have it and how you would treat other people. So if you thought you had it, I would want to make sure I didn't infect you if I was in your presence. So just keeping that kind of distance.
Do you think that we are less vulnerable being outside?
I don't know. I think that in theory, yes, but okay. Like anything, the amount of time that you spend with people and your close proximity to people would increase your likelihood of transmission. Okay. I do believe, just from my own personal experiences, and you're starting to see a little bit more in the news, I think the transmissibility on surfaces is not that high.
Okay, that's good.
Because I think I would have gotten it or at least been exposed to it just by the nature of transferring prescriptions and bags and stuff like that. And maybe we've just been completely lucky, but I don't truly think that there's a ton of risk in terms of surface to surface contact. You might be able to detect it on surfaces, but I don't think your ability to get infected by that is very strong. But, you know, I think what's amazing about it is it's new. It's a completely new virus, and the healthcare system is not used to dealing with new things. So it took a lot of adjustments on all of our parts to realize that we don't have all the answers, and we think we do, but we're learning stuff all the time.
Yeah, it was a big wallop.
Yeah, it truly was. But it's amazing how much we adjust to it in some ways too. I remember when the governor put his first stay-at-home order, and it was in March, and it was to June 10th, and we're like, oh my God, that's so far away. And now look at us now. We're like, oh, okay, I'm not sure I want to go out anymore. So
there is some truth to that. There is some truth.
I think that we're all, and especially in the business community, we had to make huge adaptations to our business models, but we've done it. And I think that that'll serve us better in the long run anyway.
I think it will. And I think that it will make, at least it has made me more cautious about what I'm doing and expectations. You know, and I was never kind of like a you know, a mass scenario. I don't like huge crowds of people like squished in, and even now I'm glad I don't. But, you know, that's not going to change. But I think, you know, people are realizing that we may never go back to those days of doing things that way.
Yeah. I think that we don't even know what it's how we are as a culture going to change from it. It all depends, I think, on how it's going to run its course, and we're still learning. So it'll be interesting, and that's why I feel like from the business side, having that flexibility to be able to change your business is good. I also think that us who own businesses and operate in Delray are super lucky, because our customers are super loyal, and they're willing to put up with the rough patches, knowing that it's going to take us a little bit of time to reacquaint ourselves. And I'm super, super blessed by that. I'm grateful that I'm not working in a chain pharmacy, you know, so I know that that I get a little bit of leeway, and I'm very grateful for that, because I think it would have made it so much more difficult during those times.
And you were able to make those decisions quickly, and you could see what was right in front of you and make that change, rather than having to wait on something to come down
right
high about it.
Exactly. And we tried to be very transparent too about our decision making, and trying to be real honest with people about the where we were having difficulty. Like, this is what we think we should do, but this is what we want to do, and help us feel safer. Tell us what you need us to do to make you feel safe, and we'll try to make those adjustments.
Well, you've done a great job. It is no wonder that you were named as one of the recipients of the Heart of Delray Award that comes from the business community. It is well deserved. I can't imagine not having you on the Avenue. It is just the most convenient thing in the world, a wonderfully pleasant experience. And I want to thank you for being here with us today. I know it's your day off, and so I appreciate the time you have taken. And Michael and Molly Louise and I will look forward to the next time we can all come down and get a dog biscuit from you.
Awesome. I will look forward to seeing you.
Okay. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.